You can automate how wet or how dry your effects are at a certain part in the song, maybe accentuating a certain area. So again, look in your help area for your digital audio workstation and search for automation. All right, so let's go on to my third tip. And this third tip I'm pretty excited about, and I believe it'll be a great little secret or tip for you. Now, I use a particular digital audio workstation. I've used several over the years, and I recently changed workstations. I'm not going to tell that story again. If you've heard these episodes before, you've heard me complain about my previous digital audio workstation. The point is, no matter what digital audio workstation you have, you'll typically have tools that are universal. So for instance, most digital audio workstations will have reverb. They will have compression. They will have an EQ or some type of gate. I'm going to focus in on something today, but again, I feel that this is a kind of a secret weapon tip. Hang on for a second, and I'm going to go back and I want you to listen to something. And I'm going to isolate the sound as well. In this track, I want you to listen to the hi-hat in this track. And the hi-hats is kind of low, and I'll pull them out so you can hear them very clearly. Listen to the hi-hat rhythm. And then I also want you to listen to, there's a little snare roll, a snare drum roll that happens just as we get into the part where the music goes into a different section with more instruments. Take a listen. Again, hi-hats and a little snare drum roll. Take a listen. Snare drum. Okay, let me correct myself. That's really not a snare drum. That's more like a hand clap, like an 808 hand clap. So whatever. Just pay attention to that sound. So let's go back again. Let me point it out to where it is. And the hi-hat has more of a kind of a trap sound. Take a listen. Here's a hi-hat. Right there. There's a claps. Hi-hat. Hi-hat. Okay, let me play it separately just in case if you're not hearing it. I'm going to turn the metronome on so you can hear what I'm talking about. Take a listen. Here's a roll. Okay, so there's a couple things happening here, but the thing I want to focus on is the rhythm for the hi-hat. The hi-hat has, again, that trap kind of sound where it's super, super fast, and the same thing for the rolls for the hand claps. Take a listen. Now, I've seen people, and I used to do this, where you'll sit there with your MIDI editor, and you will sit there and just write in or draw in a whole bunch of tiny little notes in order to get that type of sound. And you can do it that way, and it's kind of time consuming, but that's a lot of notes to draw in. And I used to take maybe let's say 4 of those super fast 30-second notes and then copy the series of the 4 notes and then do 4, 4, 4, 4. And then once I have a group of, let's say, 16, then I'll copy the 16 across a certain area. Again, you can do stuff like that, but I feel like it's time consuming and it's harder to control if you want to have different rhythm patterns for that little section. You have to go in and do surgery each time you want to make some special alteration to that sound. Let me slow the tempo down just a bit so you can hear what I'm talking about in terms of the how fast my my hi-hat and clap rolls are. Let me move. So right now my project is set at 120 beats per minute. I'm going to slow it down to 90. Take a listen. Yeah, I'll play the metronome again. Okay, so that's what it sounds like when it's slowed down. I believe that there's a better way to get those trap sounds or those super fast rhythms with a tool that many of you should have in your digital audio workstation. So here's my super great tip for today. I'm pretty excited about it. I recommend that you load your soft synth, and I use a soft synth for this, like a drum kit soft synth, and I routed that through an arpeggiator, an ARP. Many ARPs can be programmed to do all sorts of rhythm patterns. So for me, I chose triplet notes that are super fast. I believe these are 30-second triplet notes. So it kind of has that trap feel. So let me go ahead and play something from my ARP here so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. So any sound that's loaded up in my soft synth here, you can hear that it's at that speed. So I can do different patterns. So that is the benefit of using an arpeggiator. It's actually playing the note very quickly for me. So let me tell you what's going on in my ARP so you can understand what I'm talking about. And I'm going to change the rhythm patterns around just a bit. So right now, again, you hear this rhythm pattern. And again, we're at 120 beats per minute. I'm going to slow this down to, let's do quarter notes. Take a listen. I'm just holding a note down. So if you see me in my studio right now, I'm just holding a note down on my MIDI controller. And it's perfectly hitting those quarter notes. Now I'm going to speed this up. Let's double that. Let's go to eighth notes. Take a listen. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's my arpeggiator. Okay, now I'm going to double it one more time, and if you can guess what the rhythm would be for this, tell me. What do you think? You got it. 16th notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Take a listen. And just so you know, if you hear my sound kind of bouncing back and forth, I have another thing loaded up onto this track that gives it that auto panning type of sound. That will be for a different episode. But the actual pulses that you're hearing, they're 16th notes. Now, if I speed this up back to where I was before, then again, you get this super fast rhythm pattern. And I don't have to sit and program all these tiny increments on my digital audio workstation. So this is where we started from. Now, let me leave you with this final tip. If you are creating your own loops or your own rhythm parts and you don't like some of the stuff you hear from samples and different loops that you may have loaded up or you're finding online, you can use your ARP to create your own crazy rhythm patterns. So in this instance, as I mentioned before, I've been playing just a single note. Now, imagine what will happen if I were to play multiple notes. If I were to hold down two different notes at the same time, the way I have my ARP set up right now, it will play one note, the other note, the other note. It's going to bounce back and forth, but with the same rhythm pattern. Take a listen. Let me use a sound that's a little bit more different. So it's bouncing back between the clap and that hi-hat. I'm going to add a third note in there. Take a listen. I'm going to add a whole bunch of notes. I'm just going to play a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not sure what it's going to sound like, but let's take a listen. This kind of sounds like trash. Let's try something else. So it sounds like a 3-year-old going crazy on a drum set. But let's slow it down here. Let's try a different rhythm pattern here. I'm going to slow it down from the super fast rhythm that I had programmed before. Let's take a listen. You have your sweet drum roll, and I'm going to move this down just a bit more. Let's go back down to 16th notes here, see what we get. Sounds like an old school Casio keyboard, right? Keyboard drum machine. But again, you can start off a track like this, right? Throw a filter on it, or throw it in the background. All I'm doing, and I'm not even looking at my MIDI controller right now. I'm just kind of, as I'm recording, just reaching back and just pressing down random notes. And I'm not pressing over and over again. The arpeggiator is doing that for me. So again, use your ARP as a way to create some crazy rhythms. Play around with it. I'm sure you know, if you've played around with arpeggiators, I'm sure you've done it for synth parts and things like that. But the next level of production for you will be using it for your rhythm, man. You can save yourself some time. You can create some of those trap beats. You can create some crazy loops. You can create some crazy percussion loops. And then on top of that, maybe layer that with some other instrumentation, man. You can create some phenomenal sound. And when you do, you'll be more successful at this music game, man. Your overall sound will go to the next level. And you're not going to be using this cut and paste stuff you get from the internet or stuff you find in your DAW where you just drag and drop samples that everyone's using. You can literally create your own kind of sample. Oh, and one more thing before we get out of here. When I had that little clap sound playing, I merged that with an envelope. So let me go back to where I'm talking about here. So take a listen and listen for the clap sound. It's going to get very loud. So I'm using both the ARP and I'm using the envelope to create more of a dramatic effect leading into the music dropping. Take a listen. Right here. Whoops, looks like I did not put my rhythm back to where it should have been in the first place. Let me do that here. I didn't mind that too much. Let me play that for you again. Kind of like that. But the original way was like this. Here you go. There we go. So again, I increased my ARP speed way back up there, but I also put an envelope on it to boost the volume. So again, it kind of slides us right into this bigger section. Let me rewind it one more time. Right here. All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you checking us out today. I'm hoping that you got some good tips from us today. Subscribe to this podcast. Please share this podcast and check us out as we drop new content all of the time. Hey, and check out all of our other episodes. You can hear all of them at our main website. That is successwithmusic.com. Successwithmusic.com. And while you're there, feel free to send us your questions. It can be about production, about making money in music, songwriting, whatever you want to ask us. Just send those questions from our main website. Yo, check us on the next episode. $10 of gas won't fill the tank. No, this just gets old. I know there's gotta be a better way for me in this life. That is my dream. Here's to a